Okay, so we are adding our water to the pot to get ready to boil it. We're going to make a double batch, which is 3 3/4 quarts times 2. It's half full now. I'm going to put the rest of it in just a second. So while that's heating up, we will go over to the other area and get the tea and the sugar ready to add to it. So I'm Dennis, you're Sarah.
Yes.
And what's happening here?
Well, I'm trying to learn how to make kombucha.
You are. And this is what we used to make it. So we're boiling some water over there. We have sugar. It can either be cane sugar like this, or why don't you put a cup in there? We're going to make a double batch. It's 2 cups of sugar and 16 tea bags.
And that makes
2 gallons. This is a small amount from a prior batch. She's so oh, is that a cup or is that 2 cups? Oh, that is a cup. That's fine. You don't need to be that exact. Would be so I put it in there, and then we'll do another cup of this. You tell me when to stop.
All right, that's good. I like it like not as sweet.
It doesn't really make it sweet. It's just what the SCOBY. Oh, a new word, SCOBY. SCOBY stands for Symbiotic Community of Bacteria and Yeast. And we'll show you a SCOBY. But in the meantime, we also add some tea bags. I like mixing tea bags. I've got mango black tea, and I'll have 8 of those.
And 8 of the black.
2, 4, 6, 8. Now, my instructions say don't use flavored teas, but I don't find these to be bad. So we will take this and pour it into the water when it's boiled. Excuse me. So this is an existing batch of fermentation batch of kombucha. It's not yet ready. It's about 5 days old, and we could taste it. It's a little bit early to taste. You want to try? Try a little bit. Because I'm curious how this one is doing.
Alright. Yeah, it's not as
So
potent.
It's still kind of tastes like tea, but you can feel it getting a little bit vinegary. Okay, now we're ready to add tea and sugar to the boiling water. So I usually, it doesn't matter, but I'll add the sugar first, and you stir it in. I use a wooden spoon, and the point is to get the sugar dissolved. So now we've steeped it for, half hour, 45 minutes. Usually I let it steep overnight because I'd rather it sucked up all the nutrients from the tea bags into the water. But you can also do it in a shorter period by making an ice bath like this. And then you be very careful because this is hot, and I think I might tell you a story later. And we lift it up and we just put it in the ice bath, and we'll let it cool off this way for probably an hour, 2 hours. We'll see. It just wants to be cool before you add it to the SCOBY. So this is my story that relates to being careful with hot items. When I was a freshman in high school, my mother had made French fries with a deep fat fryer, and in doing the dishes I picked it up and it was so hot I dropped it and it spilled on my thigh. They took me to the hospital. I stayed in the hospital for 5 days. It was pretty good. It didn't hurt that much. On the last day, the doctor came in, took the dead skin off, sorry, because it was 2nd, 3rd degree burns, wrapped it up, and by the time I got home, I was in total agony because it hurt once the skin was removed. So that's just a cautionary note and a little curious fact about being careful when you're handling the hot tea before you transfer it to something else. So we're going to go over a few of the process and talk about kombucha and probiotics, and in fact prebiotics too, which I had never heard of. Prebiotics are food sources. They're onions, asparagus, and jicama that become probiotic in your stomach. Probiotics are already fermented items like yogurt, there you go. Yogurt, sauerkraut, acidophilus, and certainly kombucha, and I presume that's why you're watching the video here. So we brew and ferment kombucha. It has benefits. It's a healthy influence on the microbiome, which is the flora in the lower intestine, and it aids digestion. Now, I made some notes. These are kind of like little chart notes that we will make available or embed in there. So we talked about here what the essential ingredients are, and I think we said that earlier: black tea, organic cane sugar, water, and a SCOBY. And the essentials, which you've seen: a large pot, a strainer, spoon for stirring. All that's pretty straightforward.
Where can you get SCOBYs?
SCOBYs you need to either buy, which they can get sometimes on Craigslist. There are kind of places you can buy from, but the best is to find somebody like myself or yourself in a month or two, somebody you know that makes it, you've tasted their kombucha, it looks good, it tastes good, and then once you have one, they multiply. I've been doing it about a year, and I do it in 2 places, so I have 2 batches, one running in one. I might have 6 or 8 SCOBYs, 2 or 3 SCOBYs in each jar like that. Usually the jars are about this high. This is a smaller jar because I brought it on the airplane. We've gone through some of the process, which is boiling the water, setting aside the sugar and the tea bags. You've seen all of that.
So you were saying to me before we started this that you can't use decaffeinated tea.
Decaffeinated tea doesn't seem to ferment with the SCOBY, I think, because the SCOBY uses the caffeine to do its fermentation. And
you mentioned something about if you want to put it on pause, like when you're, I guess you take the SCOBYs from each batch that you finish and use it to make the next batch. So let's say that you stop for whatever reason for a couple weeks. How do you keep the SCOBY?
You just go ahead and, if you're being gone for 3 weeks, go ahead and make a batch and leave it on the counter just like normal. When you get back, it may be too vinegary to drink, so you just pour it out and start over. The SCOBY will be fine. Yeah, and then you can, if you do this for a long time, you'll end up with more SCOBYs than you need. And if you don't have friends you can give them to, you can actually get a glass jar that you can seal and start what I call a SCOBY hotel. and you just leave it in there for 3 to 6 months. And at some point, if you need one, if one of your scobies goes bad, you can just take one out of the SCOBY hotel.
How do you know when a SCOBY's gone bad?
Ooh, that goes to the troubleshooting page now, doesn't it?
I'm jumping ahead.
You are. So a normal SCOBY floats on the top, bottom, or sideways in the jar. It forms brown strings, slimy, below the SCOBY or on the bottom. If it develops a hole or a bump or dried patches, darker brown patches or jelly-like patches, all that is normal. SCOBY's still good. It just means changes of the... All right, well, thank you for watching our video on how to make kombucha. I hope you enjoyed it and have some fun making it. I've been making it for about a year. And I was inspired to make this video by having gone to a curious conversation with Barry Eisler and Justin Kitch at Curious.com. And they talked about how you write a story. It was the art of storytelling. And for 40 years, I've been making charts on different things. And I took and combined that conversation, and I wrote like 6 pages of charts that we'll share. That's as much why I wanted to do this as telling people or helping people learn how to make kombucha. So the first page was characters. Now, even though there were only 2 in our show, there were actually going to be 7 characters. Lucy, the inquisitive 6-year-old, Sage, the 8-year-old, Sarah Jane, that was with me, myself, Allie, who was going to be the open-minded mother but a bit skeptical, Zed, who's the narrator now holding the camera, and a lady named Tanya May, who is Tanya K, who is a experienced stunt lady and kombucha maker. So then, we will put these charts so you can see them, because I think they're helpful in figuring out how to do something. So this ended up being our script. This page,
it's all white. I mean, it's all white because of
that's okay. That's okay, because you can overlay it or you can put it in. You can lay it in also. This page just talked about generally about kombucha and probiotics and the ingredients and the essential materials. This page talked about the process of making it, the initial process, and how you transfer it from the original batch to little bottles. This page talked about the initial fermentation for 7 days, as well as making it ready for bottle, which really followed that other page, but down at the bottom of that previous page was what you could do when you transfer and did the boiling process, because while it's boiling you can actually do the transfer, then you just leave them and sit. Then this page was additional ideas that need to be addressed, and this page was troubleshooting. So it was a couple hours to do this, but it was a good way to get my ideas down on paper, and we kind of used that as a script as we went through. So hopefully you learn a little bit about making kombucha, but also a way to organize your thoughts and your own projects. Thank you very much.